Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. My dear Prahlad, while you are in this material world, you will exhaust all the reactions of pious activities by feeling happiness. And by acting piously, you will neutralize impious activity. Because of the powerful time factor, you will give up your body, but the glories of your activities will be sung in the upper planetary systems. And being fully freed from all bondage, you will return home back to Godhead. Responsibly, please. My dear Prahlad, while you are in this material world, you will exhaust all the reaction of pious activity by feeling happiness, and by acting piously, you will neutralize impious activity. Because of the powerful time factor, you will give up your body, but the glories of your activities will be sung in the upper planetary systems. And being fully freed from all bondage, you will return home back to Godhead. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Evam pralaya shamsena sadhana siddhimtva nitya siddhatva cha narada vija geyam. There are two classes of devotees, the sadhana siddha and the nitya siddha. Prahlad Maharaj is a mixed siddha. That is, he is perfect partly because of executing devotional service and partly because of eternal perfection. Thus, he is compared to such devotees as Narada. Formerly, Narada Muni was the son of a maid servant, and therefore, in his next birth, he attained perfection, sadhana siddhi, because of having executed devotional service. Yet, he is also nitya siddha, because he never forgets the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word kushalena is very important. One should live in the material world very expertly. The material world is known as the world of duality because one sometimes has to act impiously and sometimes has to act piously. Although one does not want to act impiously, the world is so fashioned that there is always danger. Padam padam nyappi padam. Thus, even when performing devotional service, a devotee has to create many enemies. Prahlad Maharaj himself had experience of this. For even his father became his enemy. A devotee should expertly manage to think always of the Supreme Lord so that the reactions of suffering cannot touch him. This is the expert management of Papa Punya, pious and impious activities. An exalted devotee like Prahlad Maharaj is Jivan Mukta. He is liberated even in this very life, in the material body. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umiltam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. My dear Prahlad, while you are in this material world, you will exhaust all the reactions of pious activity by feeling happiness, and by acting piously you will neutralize impious activity. Because of the powerful time factor, you will give up your body, but the glories of your activities will be sung in the upper planetary systems. and being fully freed from all bondage, you will return home back to Godhead. Before I say anything, I'd like to thank you all the devotees for giving me opportunity to speak. Here is a very interesting point in purport. One is Prabhupada talks about Nitya Siddha and the Sadhana Siddha. And also another point is, you may like it, this one. Here, even when performing devotional service, a devotee has to create many enemies. Do you agree with that? Prabhupada said, has to create. It's not you may create enemies, but Prabhupada said you have to create. You have to create. Do you agree with that? Yes? Yeah, it happens, isn't it? Especially temple commander positions. You arrange so many things, and then we have to ask or engage people, and then there is pros and cons, and then conflict also. So mainly this morning I'll speak on these 2 points, Sadhana Siddha and Nitya Siddha. And while performing devotional service, sometimes we have to, or we may create enemies. Then as a devotee, how to deal with this. Yes. Here Prabhupada explains about 2 types of siddhas. Siddha means perfection or liberated stage. But interestingly enough, that Prabhupada actually somewhere else he explains one more type of siddhas. What is that? Sadhana Siddha? Yeah, Kripa Siddha, yes. In the early days, in 1969, Prabhupada answered Mukunda Maharaj's letter. At the time, Mukunda Maharaj was preaching in this UK, and then he's expanding this kind of a movement. And they established temple here, and then they tried to establish temple in the Leicester. Somehow they got in touch with the other Hindu community, and then Mukunda Maharaj asked that it is okay to set up the temple kind of with the Hindu community, so we're trying to set up temple, Hindu temple. So in order to quickly facilitate the need of the spreading Krishna consciousness. And the Prabhupada said clearly that I'm not interested in establishing Hindu temple. He wrote in a letter very specifically. And then in that letter he goes on further to a question that people sometimes get curious. What is the stage of Prabhupada's previous life? And then another question is that Prabhupada, as a spiritual master, is always liberated, only in this life. And in order to explain this, Prabhupada explains about 3 types of siddhas. That there is a sadhana siddhas, as Prabhupada gave example of Narada Muni, and the nitya siddhas, the eternal liberated souls. But in terms of spiritual master, Prabhupada said that very specific statement. He said that unless spiritual master is a resident of Goloka Vrindavan, unless he came direct from there, he is not spiritual master. So spiritual master has to be liberated soul. Then what is the criteria of liberated soul? And he says that liberated soul means who knows Krishna. That's as simple as that. And then he goes further in that letter. He says that actually all living entity came from Krishna Loka. All living entity, all conditions of soul, actually originally we are uncontaminated stage. And also still we are uncontaminated stage, but somehow we are covered by the gunas. And then he explains, give a kind of vivid example that when you mix oil with water, oil is within the water, but actually oil and water is quite separate. We can tell clearly. So our stage, our status is exactly like that. So in order to, one sense, revive that contaminated stage, in order to be pure again, then we need to develop sadhana in order to reach Krishna. And also here, Prabhupada explained that letter further, that There is a saying that knowing is one thing and to practice is another. We know a lot, but that doesn't mean we practice a lot. And regarding a love of God, also the same thing. Prabhupada says that to know and accepting God is one thing, and then to love God is another thing. So we experience that the majestic feeling of Almighty God, we experience a lot. And so we worship God as awe and reverence. Not only our community, the outside community also. There are many people who worship God. But in our community, Krishna consciousness, we have a unique opportunity to develop love of God. Why? We see God as our own child. So people calling God when they are in need many, many times. Oh Lord, what happened? Oh Lord, please help us. But in our case, it's not that. We approach God to look up them. It's not that we want something from the God. That's why in Damodar month, quite specific. You need to imbibe the mood of Mother Yashoda. Although she is chasing, but actually behind the chasing, there is love to it. So that is the significance about the Damodar months. So in this way, yes, there are three types of Siddha, but which category do we belong to? Are we Nitya Siddha, or are we Sadhana Siddha, or are we Kripa Siddha? That we have the question. Yes. Kripa. Yes. Ultimately, we are more or less Kripa Siddha. At the same time, the element of Sadhana Siddha is there. Although we are asking for mercy, but in order to receive mercy, we have to make ourselves available for that mercy. What makes that availability is our sadhana. If we don't follow any instruction and still we ask for mercy, then it doesn't work. So it is important that we are always hanker for kripa, mercy. So that sadhana has to come along with kripa, and also kripa also has to come along with the sadhana. So Prabhupada explained here that Narada Muni is mixed siddha, and also Prahlad Maharaj also mixed siddha. So we have to hanker for this kripa, this mercy. Mercy comes in the form of prasadam at the class. So you take prasadam. It's very nice. And now, yes, now we know that we are Kripa Siddha. Yes, we have to hanker for Krishna's mercy. So, sadhana, we have to perform sadhana. During performing our sadhana, so now we get into trouble. What is the trouble? Through the devotional service, we may create enemies. Then, how to deal with this? Before we deal with this, maybe let us share some examples of you, while you performing devotional service, what kind of difficulty you may went through, you may go through, maybe not now. Or any example of, yes, I was in trouble, I created enemy, but I resolved like this or that. Shall we share it? President Babu, yeah, you should share. Yeah. Mm.
He immediately went from it. It was a wrong moment to speak.
Mm.
Totally wrong moment.
Mm.
They all knew her very well personally, and she was very dear to her. So, you know, I knew that I should have said it, I should have quoted maybe the following day. So it was a complete error of judgment. And certainly, I tried to apologize, but he wouldn't accept it, no matter what.
Mm.
Whenever I see this person, he will completely ignore me.
Mm.
And, you know, and I realize now that actually if I even approach him now, it would just make things worse. So the only thing I do in my own situation is I just pray for forgiveness, that Krishna somehow will create a situation in which it can be resolved in
Mm.
some way. Because I don't know how to do it. I have no knowledge how to approach this person.
विशेष श्री राधा गोकुलानंद की जय, श्री सीताराम लक्ष्मण की जय, श्री गौरांग की जय. Okay. Can anyone give advice on this? Yeah? Do you all understand what is experience? Yeah, you understand, yeah. Can anyone give advice? Lalita Mataji, can you give advice on this? Mm. 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 Okay. So you did your duty, basically, according to Lalita Maharaj. So you apologized it, and then the other person, whether you accepted that apology or not, is now the ball is on the other court. Yeah. In one sense, the Lord Buddha had the same approach on this. And then one time he was traveling, and then people criticizing him, Lord Buddha, very heavily. And the disciple couldn't tolerate that. And they're trying to attack the person who criticizing Lord Buddha. And the Lord Buddha said, stop, don't do that. And then disciples were quite curious. Why you don't do anything about it? And people are blaming you for nothing. And then he said, my dear boy, sit down, listen to me. If you make a nice offering, and then you offer to the other party, and then you want to offer that food, but if the other party doesn't accept it, then where does the food go? And he said, I have to take it back because he doesn't want to accept my food. So what can I do? So you have to take it back. And the Buddha said exactly the same. So if you blame also the same thing, if someone criticizes you, so that there is some point to that criticizing, yes, but somehow or other, if you don't accept that criticism, actually that criticism it goes back to him. In one sense, it's difficult to understand, but if you think of it deeper, that your integrity is more important than anything else. Your state of mind. Yes. If you've done your duty, and if the other party doesn't accept, then it's all main issue is residing in the other party. It's not you. It's left already now. Does it make sense? Yes? Okay, one other case. After fasting day, when it's a festival comes, we have fasting day, yes? And then there is one case that people are sitting in a row. So we are waiting for Mahaprasadam, yes? There's Sariradi Vidajal, the singing is going on. And the one person, he felt so thirsty because of fasting. He couldn't tolerate the thirst. And he got up, he went to pantry room, he got a cup of water, and then before prashadam, I want to drink a cup of water, and then he came back to this position, but his place is gone. Someone else took his place. He lost his seat, and then there was a big argument. This is my seat. No, it's you can't say that. Is it your name on it, or reserved, or what? You can't say it. And there was a big argument. And then there was another case. Exactly the same case. This person brought the water, and then he saw his place is gone. And then he offered that water to that person. Would you like to have this cup of water? And then the person didn't know that it was his place. He just saw, he's a very kind devotee. And he accepted the water. And then this devotee left. And then he just gave up the seat. Yes. Now, what kind of devotee you want to be? It's entirely your choice. In our life, in our devotional life especially, things comes without our expectation, and also things comes, you get blamed for doing nothing. It doesn't happen all the time. In outside community, exactly the same. We may say this karma. For example, I get this all the time. I cycle to the school, and I cycle, and then all of a sudden, sometimes one line of 10, then people just beeping for me on the road. And also, there is sometimes a car accident comes. Then you may drive perfectly right, but someone else is drunken, they may hit you. Then what to do? Now, it is important from that moment how you interpret and also how to move forward. As a devotee, we have to focus on this. I'll give you one other example. One time, one of a Korean professor couple came to UK for holiday. And then this couple had a car accident, and the wife became paralyzed. And then the person who caused the car accident said that it's not my fault, it's your fault. And then they went to court case. It lasted for 7 years. Can you imagine? They're fighting court case. They had to go back to Korea, and then they're fighting court case for 7 years. What happened in England, the UK. And then after 7 years, eventually they won the case. And then they had a huge amount of compensation money, around £1 million. But interestingly, I'm not interested about talking about the money part. The people, this couple, how did they handle with this money? Interestingly enough, 50% of that money they gave it into charity. They gave 50% of that compensation, they gave it to charity. And then he went on to newspaper. That's why I got to know. And then it was kind of really shocked me. And also it gave me great learning opportunity that, yes, things happen in our life, but what to do with that problem? Actually, that makes us one step closer to Krishna or one step away from Krishna. You know the older story. You know the story that the Prabhupada disciple, one Prabhupada disciple, that he was a really good brahmachari, but what happened was his parents lost their life because of the air crash, the plane crash. And they got the inheritance of huge money, millions and millions of pounds. And then all of a sudden he left the movement. You never see them again. So in this way, here Prabhupada says that the world is so fashioned that there is always danger. And thus, even when performing devotion service, a devotee has to create many enemies. So we may create enemies, but Prabhupada here explains very interesting point, that A devotee should expertly manage to think always of the Supreme Lord. Due to or out of any turbulence you may go through, still you have to be expert to think of the Supreme Lord, so that the reactions of suffering cannot touch him. Yes, we want to apologize, but the other party doesn't accept our apologies. Then what do? You have to think of Krishna more, rather than thinking about the other party. Why he's not accepting my apology? Why? Rather than asking why, okay, I apologize, okay, that's enough. And then you have to think more about Krishna. And also, in English saying that kill them with kindness, isn't it? Any opportunity to serve, you have to serve. Kill them with kindness. And we also kind of, if you do preaching activity, sometimes there is no reason you get shouted at. I've experienced that when I was doing Harinam in Korea. The same street, we were doing Harinam. It was fine. We've been doing months and months and months. It's fine. All of a sudden, one guy comes with a big block. Oh, this is belongs to my region, so you get out. And then I said, okay. So I avoided the conflict. And the next week I came back again. This guy is not there anymore. So in this way, day to day, our devotional life, day to day, even material life, we get challenges all the time. But, as the Prabhupada said here, somehow or other, we have to manage to think of Krishna. We have to expertly deal with it by thinking about Krishna. Then reaction cannot touch the devotee. Can you relate this to any Bhagavad verse? When I read this one, I could relate to one Bhagavad verse. What verse can you relate to this? Tatayanu Kampam, this is Srimad Bhagavatam verse. Yeah, Tatayanu Kampam, Susamiksamano. Yes, just patiently you have to wait. Or a Bhagavad verse. Anyone can relate to Bhagavad verse with this incident? You know, this started with Apiche Sudracharo, Padate Ananyabhak. Yes? Even if you are very simple person, but if you are determined in the devotional service, then Krishna says, what did he say? You know that verse. How did it go? Yes, Sadhureva Samantavyami. He is considered as sadhu. Why? Because he is determined in devotional service. Sadhureva Samantavyam Samyak Vyavastiti. Because he's on right track. He's determined in devotional service. Yes. Sometimes we judge others. But as the Bible says that do not judge others, otherwise you will be judged by God. So sometimes we do measure or trying to judge according to their social status. But this doesn't apply to devotional service. Ultimately, deep down your determination to the Lord or to the devotional service, that ultimately judge will be Krishna. Does it make sense? Yeah?